You know, I love my theme music. Right, getting it on here, right here, getting ready to have a great show. Really excited about my guest here today. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and the only, the Muay Thai guy, Mr. Sean Fagen. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great conversation here, guys. If you want to know about this man, what makes him tick, I'm telling you right now, you want to be a part of this show today. We're going to have, again, an exciting time. Want to remind everyone, of course, about the upcoming ICAF Georgia Classic. You know, that event is coming up in January in Columbus, Georgia. You want to make sure that you go ahead right now and register for that full contact event. It is going to be a great time in Georgia. Columbus, Georgia, January the 15th at the Columbus Convention Center. Hey, maybe we might twist Sean's arms a little bit and have him come there or something. Who knows, right? But anyway, guys, we got a lot of stuff planned. It's going to be, a fun time in Georgia, men, women, and children in full contact action. I want to also remind you that we have this semi-contact PKB tournament going on that morning. So in the morning, PKB. In the evening, we're going to have the fight night going on. But you know what, guys? We can talk about that a little bit later. Don't want to keep my special guests waiting there in the lobby. You know, I just want to say this, really quick. I have not really met him personally yet, But I will tell you that I am absolutely impressed with his work ethic and what he's done to promote the sport of Muay Thai. This man deserves a lot of credit for where the sport is and hopefully where it is going. So, guys, without any further ado, let's please welcome to the screen the one and the only, the Muay Thai guy, Sean Fagen.
That was such an impressive introduction. Thank you so much for the kind words. Really happy to be here. Really happy to just shoot the shit, talk shop, and just see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. It's really nice to meet you again, man. I had a chance to, do a little research. Again, I didn't know as much. I knew your name. I knew the Muay Thai guy, right? But I didn't have done a lot. But a lot of people, your videos. Oh man, let me just first say, props to you. Videos are awesome. Your information that you're giving out is awesome, right? And I can just see that you are passionate about this game. So let's start from scratch here. The Muay Thai guy. Why did you pick such a simple but such a very important intrinsic name for what you do?
Well, it's kind of a long story, right? I guess I'll rewind it back to
We
growing
good.
up. All right, sounds good. So growing up, I always played team sports. I was pretty decent at baseball and hockey, and that kind of led to me going to community college nearby. And well, the thing is, with hockey, that's kind of where my fight career started, I guess you could say, because I ended up just trying to fight people all the time. And at the end of one of the games, I was in the penalty box for probably more than half the game. And my mom just told me, you should just join a boxing gym instead of playing hockey. I don't understand what you're doing here. And she kind of said it jokingly, right? But then I ended up going to a boxing gym, and then it just kind of evolved from there. And fast forward a little bit, I play online poker, and I was winning a poker tournament for about $15,000. And then at the same time, I also read the book called The Fighter's Heart by Sam Sheridan and The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And both of those ideas kind of sparked the idea of traveling to Thailand, trying to pursue this freedom lifestyle where I'm able to do something I enjoy doing while also spreading the sport and making money doing it. And after my first trip to Thailand, I just became addicted to it. I saw that MuayThaiGuy.com was available, and not many people were starting. There were some sites back then when I first started out, but no one was really taking the role. And so I saw a little niche to be filled, and I just decided to hop on in.
I'm curious, how long has this been going on now? How long
About
have you been
11 or 12 years now, probably.
11 or 12 years. Okay. All right. Let's get into this thing here. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm really passionate. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm going to go into a lot of areas here. I got chapters in my interview. You'll get. Don't worry, we're going to cover a lot of stuff. But I'm passionate about what I do. I love Muay Thai, and I love kickboxing, obviously, and boxing. But I'm trying to figure out, what is it that you become so passionate that you decide to relocate to Thailand? I mean, that's not normal. I mean, so what about it attracted you so much that you would just give up your basically so many years of your life to go live in Thailand?
Well, when I first went to Thailand, it really opened my eyes to a different way of life. One that was a little bit more simple and just
Mm,
revolved around training and like a healthy lifestyle, more or less. And the culture in Thailand and the Thai people, and just the way that Muay Thai is kind of enrooted in the tradition and culture of the country, really just got my attention. And it was just so cool to be a part of. And then the fighting itself. It's such a beautifully chaotic sport, where
yeah.
there's so much violence, but there's so much grace to it as well. And the dichotomy of both of those aspects really just got my attention. And I also wanted to kind of prove a lot to myself. I felt like growing up, like I said, I played team sports, but I always felt kind of overlooked by my coaches. I never got the
Mm,
type of playing time I wanted, and I always felt like I had something to prove. And so once I was able to get into the sport and I started learning so much about myself after the first few fights, it just became addicting. And although I kind of started ego based, like a lot of people do, like you just want to be a badass, you want to look cool
yeah.
and do all the kicking and punching
Right.
and fighting and stuff. But it eventually became more of an enlightening experience where I learned a lot about myself each and every fight. It was like I shedded a layer of myself every fight. And so that addiction just kind of led to me wanting to move to Thailand, where massages are like $5, pad thai is like $1,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I was able to live a lot more openly while still being able to make money online.
Yeah, you said something that's kind of interesting there. Finding out more about yourself. Were you like a trouble kid? You said that you were fighting and doing the hockey or whatever you were doing,
Hmm.
so you were troubled. But did that come from somewhere, some other place, lacking of confidence or whatever? Because sometimes when people fight a lot, right
Hmm.
on the street, right, it's because they're trying to prove something, right?
Hmm.
So did you find what you were looking for literally? I mean, in yourself
Yeah, I mean,
by having a real fight in Thailand?
yeah, I mean, growing up, I was never a big kid. I was always the skinny kid, right? And I
Ah,
always was really, I wasn't bullied, but I wasn't not, if that makes any sense. It was kind of like in the
no,
middle.
it
Like
doesn't.
I
It
always
doesn't.
get,
I need you to explain that to me.
yeah, well, like I got along with people, but still the older classmen and everything would still pick on me
Mm,
and rough me up and everything. So I always avoided confrontation. I never liked the idea of fighting because I always felt kind of weak and insecure. And this feeling kind of just manifested itself. One of my best friends died when I was 18, and that really just shook up my whole world and kind of made me realize like life is about growth, life is about living it. And I kind of felt like in a stagnated place, and fighting was one of the things that really just scared the living shit out of me. Like I always was so scared to actually step in front of somebody and throw down and see who's the tougher guy, the better fighter. And so I naturally realized that like fear is kind of an indicator that it's something that you should probably be testing out and doing. And so once I started testing out the waters, it was a rude awakening, right? Because you learn really quickly. You don't know shit about fighting when you first start, no matter how much you think you do.
right.
And you get roughed up, you get humbled, but then you earn your respect. And there's no lying in fighting, like you can't lie how hard you train, you can't lie about what you show in the ring. Like
Right.
it's all truth out there, and like you find a lot about yourself through that truth. And I thought that was as valuable as it gets in terms of just like life
Right.
lessons.
And I'm going to come back around to your fighting career and things like I told you, my interviews are not quite ABC, right? So I'll
Good, I
come.
like it that way.
Yeah,
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 let's
yeah.
keep
I'll,
it.
I'll come. I'll come back a little bit more and dig. We'll get back into the fighting part, but you recently announced your retirement, right?
Mhm.
So I want to kind of go into that a little bit because the COVID hit, right? And the COVID played a role, I think, in that, because all the fighting and everything stopped. How old are you now, Sean?
Well,
No, Sean. How old are you now?
oh, how old am I? I'm
Yes.
34 now.
But I, I,
So,
th- I, th- I didn't think you got that question, right? Right, right. So tell me a little bit about the COVID era, if you will, and we're kind of still in it, and how that affected your fighting.
so once COVID hit, I was actually working on a business project called the Fighter's Body, which is a at-home workout program where I'm kind
Mm,
of leading people through uh, everything I've learned in my career, but in workout format. and that took a lot of time initially on, but then COVID hit, and that was like the perfect timing in regards to an at-home workout program, and then
Right.
COVID hit. It like was just it was a blessing in disguise for me in a way, but obviously things got a little bit trickier as things progressed with
Right.
the pandemic and everything. But once the pandemic hit, we were living in Thailand on an island. We had a beautiful spot right on the beach. That was only like $1,200 a month compared
Right.
to what you get here in New York. So
Right. Right.
$1,200 gets you a jail cell, you know. And so,
Right.
yeah, right. So when we were living out there, like we were kind of just our perspective was limited because we were living on an island in Thailand away from the craziness of what's happening in the pandemic. And then watching the news and seeing everything going on in the US and other countries, I felt a little detached from it because we were just living life normally for the most part. There were some lockdowns and there was some like restrictions and stuff, but nothing so significant. And
Right.
so we were able to just kind of continue doing work, staying healthy, staying active. We had ups and downs, my wife and I, and
Sure.
everyone else who was living on the
Sure.
island at the time. But
Due
ultimately,
to the pandemic.
yeah, due to the pandemic,
Okay.
just like the stagnation of energy, like no one's moving. Like the
Yeah.
people on the island were the people on the island before.
Right.
People would be coming in and out, and just everything became a little just stagnated. And so it kind of just made me take a step back and reflect and try to figure out why exactly I wanted to fight. And it's something that I try to do often is take a step back and kind of refigure out my priorities and my values. And fighting, I just didn't have the drive that I used to because of a variety of reasons. The main one is feeling like I have nothing else to prove to myself. I feel like I've proven what I've needed to myself. I've
Right.
fought a fight with a broken arm for 5 rounds and won. I've got knocked down. I've
Right.
gotten back up and won fights. I've dealt with injuries. I've dealt with losses, winning streaks, losing streaks, won
Yes.
a couple amateur titles. So I didn't really feel like adding a professional world championship in Thailand was going to mean as much as I thought it did. And initially, you're just caught up in it, right? You're just like, I just need to be champion. That's what you're
Right.
in the sport for,
Right.
right?
Right.
But then I'm like, what is the point of that? Like, what am I even doing it for? And it became a kind of hollow pursuit. And then I realized that like my heart wasn't in it. And then add on that you don't get into Muay Thai fighting to make money. You know, like this is not a lucrative sport at all.
Oh,
And
we'll talk about that a little bit.
and then because like fighting, you get just a couple thousand baht in Thailand, which is like
Right.
equivalent to a couple $100, you know,
Which is
and that's not
crazy.
going to get you very far. Where meanwhile, my online business and my influencer potential and the platform that I have has a lot more potential with impacting people and changing
Right.
people's lives and
Right.
making money where I'm able to reinvest that money
Right.
into doing things that I find purpose and fulfillment through. And
Right.
so after I just take that like all into consideration, I literally made a list before I figured out like, all right, like I should retire. But it was lingering even before COVID hit. It was lingering like, why am I even
Sure.
like doing
Yeah.
this anymore? And it's been really insightful though, to say the least.
Well, part of my thing about my shows is that it's Johnny Davis Live, real talk with real solutions. I don't want to paint some picture. I need fighters and people out there to understand the real core of this business and this industry and what it's all about. That's the only way we're going to make it better, right?
Hmm.
Is that we call it exactly what it is. First of all, I understand. Congratulations that you have a baby on the way. Is this
Yes, thank you
is
so
this your
much.
first? Is this your first baby?
Yes, it's been a whirlwind, and so we're like moving back to the States, and we were originally thinking we were going to keep living in Thailand, but now we're being fully domesticated back in New York.
Domesticated, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to figure out how much of the baby and the pandemic and the psychological aspect of things, how much of that had a play in your retirement?
Well, the baby wasn't a thing when I was deciding on retirement.
Okay.
The pandemic was, but like I said, even before that, I mean, if anything, it just kind of helped me make the decision a little bit sooner. Honestly, I could fight again in the future. When Thailand's open back up and there's
Right.
fights going on that are like
Right.
easily accessible. The thing about fighting now is that you have to really go above and beyond to fly across country, to pay for your own tickets, to do all this
Exactly.
stuff. Where in Thailand, it was like, you want to take a fight? Sure, fight
Right.
tomorrow. All right, let's go and let's fight. And then you fight, and then it's done, and that's it. And it's so much easier in that sense, and not as much pressure out there either. And so, if there was more opportunities out in Thailand again, I could see myself fighting in the
Yeah.
states, maybe at some point. But
Yeah.
to be
Let's talk.
honest, it just
Let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about that. I want to ask you. Do you think you grew up?
sorry.
Do you think you grew up?
So I think I grew up. Um, I think I'm always going to be a kid in a sense. Like I
Well, I mean,
still,
by the fact that you made this decision to retire and do some retrospect on your life.
well, yeah. I mean, just I've always been a very reflective person. I smoke a lot of weed and spend a lot of time by myself, just kind of
Oh,
just
that's
reflecting,
great
journaling.
information.
Yeah, there you go, right? And so I do a lot of self-reflection and meditation and just practices to be a little bit more mindful. And so I felt like I was kind of pushing aside the idea that I didn't want to fight with my ego, and my ego kept telling, "Look, you should fight, you should fight, you should keep doing this because you're a badass and you're the Muay Thai guy. You should do
Right,
this." But it just didn't make sense logically or rationally, and my heart wasn't in it because there was, if you do a pros and cons list, the pros was much higher for retiring and focusing on my business and family than it was to fight professionally in Thailand and continue, because like I'm not getting in easy fights anymore. Even when I win, I'm
right,
so beat up and I'm not recovering like I'm 21
right,
anymore.
right.
And so it's a different game.
So do you think there's some maturity there? There's something
Oh,
about
for sure.
maturity.
I
Yeah.
like to think I matured a little bit. We'll let my wife be the deciding factor in that.
Right. I certainly want to ask you a little bit more about your wife, but sticking to the baby part a little bit, when you think about a child, even though it wasn't part of your retirement decision, you do probably look at the future,
Mhm,
especially now, and the fact that that child needs a father and needs
mhm.
somebody healthy and somebody to help take care of him or her, right? How much does that play into now that decision to maybe stay retired?
Yeah, it just cemented it, because like
Right,
I've when I first started Muay Thai guy, the whole idea was to be able to create freedom in my life, be able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and not have any kind of restrictions. So when I think about a lot of things and I think ahead in the future, like you're saying, I'm doing 5-year goals, I'm doing 10-year goals, I'm doing
right.
the dream board. I do all that cliche hippie stuff where you're just manifesting your future. But I'm telling you, it works because you're able to really put into place what you want out of the universe, out of the world. Anyway, when it comes to the kid and everything, it just makes so much sense now because I originally set up my life where if I do end up starting a family, I could be home all the time if I wanted to. We can travel wherever we want, whenever
Right,
I want to,
right.
or we could just do whatever we want. So both me and my wife are fortunate to be in a position where we get to spend 24/7 with the kid if we want to. We don't have to drop them off to babysitters or anything, and we're
Right.
really looking forward to that.
We're gonna have a conversation maybe another time about that weed smoking that you mentioned.
I could talk hours on that.
That's a whole nother conversation, but we certainly will have it because I'm open for that kind of conversation.
Sounds good.
You talk a little bit about the money and in the game, and that's one of the areas that's one of my big pet peeves. Right, is that there's just not enough money out there. There's just
Mhm,
not. So my goal and my partner's goals out there is to try to bring more money into the game for people. I mean, I've done my part in helping certainly my promoters, make more money, and the people who work closely with me under my umbrella certainly make money. I've created programs that works, but the fighters are not making enough money. So I want to try to create a formula for them to be able to make more money. Now, in the reality of the game is that it's not there.
mhm.
What would be your best advice for someone who's thinking about doing this as a career, knowing where that money is or isn't in the sport of Muay Thai?
Yeah, you definitely have to. The first step is to like really sit down with yourself and figure out what your priorities and what your values are. Because
Right,
if you don't know what those are, then your career could be pretty short lived and be pretty meaningless in a way if you don't have really any intention behind it. If you have intention behind it, then by all means go for it. If you feel like this is something that you're really passionate about, you have something to prove, you want to be a world champion, then by all means go for it.
right,
But one of the best piece of advice that I could give you is, I mean, social media as polarizing as it can be, it's a useful tool to allow you to market yourself, to create this type of stability that a lot of Muay Thai fighters don't have because they
right.
don't have the ability to know how to market themselves or build themselves as a brand. And if you're able to do that, then you could do private lessons, you could do coaching, you could
Yeah,
work on even more higher level stuff like affiliate marketing and creating your own programs and courses or merchandise and that kind of stuff. But you kind of have to supplement it. Unless you're like the top 1%, And even when you're the top 1%, you're still not making a lot of money
Exactly.
in Muay Thai. In
Right.
MMA, it might be a little bit different. Like maybe it's
A
a
little.
bigger percentage, but still, it's still like the small percentage of people are making the big bucks. And so I hedge my bets by creating a brand as I'm fighting. Did it kind of take away from my fight career? Maybe. But at the same time, I've tried to just focus on fighting and I've tried just to focus on entrepreneurship. And I can't just do one thing. I'm just too ADD. I have to be doing multiple things at once.
You
And
will be
so,
surprised what you are capable of, Sean. you
I, it,
Hey, you will be surprised. I mean, look, I got some ideas, but that's okay. We can talk about that later. But the bottom line is, you will be surprised of what you are capable of and the things that you can accomplish with the resume that you built. I personally see. Listen, I know all these other organizations. Oh, we're going to get him. We're going to get it. Whatever. You do whatever you feel best for you, right? But let's make sure you make money while you're doing it, while you're building the
exactly,
sport, and that's the
exactly.
bottom line. You know, I'm not a bull crapper. You know, I shoot for real and I shoot honest. But as we kind of wind up on your career a little bit, what do you think the best thing was about your career?
The best thing was just like the experiences of it all, and like the insight of information I got on my psyche, my emotions, my ability to push myself past limits that I ever thought. It was just a real it was like going to school to learn a lot about yourself. It was just like the entire journey. And as cliche as
Right.
that sound, like the whole journey, the experiences, the people I got to meet, the
Wow.
things I got to do, the places I got to travel, like it just as a whole has been an incredible journey. And it's just all one awesome thing. And even the downs, even when I've lost fights or I got stopped or I had injuries or a broken arm, I'm thankful for it all because it's all really highlighted certain aspects of who I am, and it's allowed me to learn from my mistakes and grow as a person, and ideally become a mature version of myself.
Yeah, and I definitely think you've done that. But you mentioned about the worst part. Is there one particular thing that you would say is the worst part of about it? Maybe we already talked about it, the money, right?
The
But
money's
there
bad,
might
yeah.
right, the money. But we could talk about the sacrifice and maybe even
Oh, for sure.
the health of it or lack thereof health.
Yes, yeah, like the sacrifice of just spending your time and energy away from social activities. Like you're not going to be able to really hang out with friends as much, go drinking, go smoking, go just being a little bit more reckless if you're serious about fighting. And then
Right.
in addition to that, like when you're cutting weight and stuff, you can ask my wife. Like you're not a friendly person. You're just like not a good person to be around. And
You can
also
ask
just
me too. I'm sorry, you can ask me too.
and like just training camp it
Right,
takes a lot. It takes a lot of
right,
not just physical energy but emotional energy, mental energy, and so it affects the people around you for sure. So if you're going to do it, you definitely have to have a solid crew around you, supporting you along the way and understanding what you're going through. But yeah, the sacrifices, the trauma that your brain goes through, that your body goes through, a lot of that is irreversible, so you are kind of putting yourself out there, and like your life is on the line every time you fight, and you have
right.
to figure out whether or not that's worth it to you to be able to learn about yourself and prove it to yourself. I'm at the point where I remember when I was considering fighting again, and I moved to Koh Samui. I was training at Super Pro Samui, and like I was excited because we moved there. The whole idea was to like start
Right,
fighting again, right?
right.
And I trained hard 2 days for like 2 weeks, and I just quickly realized like shit, like you don't have time for anything else. You can't do anything else but train. And then I'm getting hit in the head. I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. Where
Right.
before I was like, let's go, like I can go at it. But now I'm just like, I don't want to get hit in the head anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
priority shifts. People evolve, and
It's called
I'm
growing up,
really
Sean. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
really
promise you
thankful
it's
for
called
like
growing up. I promise
yeah,
you.
I'm really thankful
It's a
for
young man's sport. Go ahead. Yes.
it is. Yeah, I'm really thankful for all the experiences, and like the injuries were really tough. Losing is really hard, especially when you're losing in front of your family and friends. You really question yourself, you question who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and that's essentially the the idea of fighting is you have to accept the good and the bad, and if you can't do that, it's gonna be hard to move on as a man or a human being.
Right, right. You know, I was wondering, did you see that movie Bruised with with Haley Berry?
No, I've seen a preview of that though. That's on the list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You heard people hating on it and everything. I just want to
No,
give
I
you,
haven't. I
yeah,
haven't.
well, yeah, people been hating on it and all, but while I have you here, because you've lived a life that ups and downs and peaks and valleys in the sport. The movie is about, it says blues, but it's about, probably more psychologically bruised, not just so much physically bruised. Can you see where you are today and the things, not only the great things that you accomplished, but maybe perhaps disappointment? I kind of feel that a little bit when I hear you speak. When I look at some of your videos, especially your retirement one, I saw a little bit of feeling, I felt a little bit of feeling of disappointment that you gave it everything that you had, but it didn't give back to you.
No, I wouldn't say disappointed. I mean, I've always set my goals really high, uh, like crazy high, where I very rarely reach them. And so I'm always kind of disappointed because I have such an optimistic view on like what I can accomplish, and then I usually fall up short. So like being a world champion was always something I wanted to be, but I wasn't able to make that happen. Am I disappointed in that? Yeah, somewhat, but that's not going to keep me up at night or anything, in the grand scheme of things. And so even like I try to look at it as in the lens of everything has kind of happened for a reason. As I feel like I'm just banging out cliches back and back, but like seriously, like everything was able to really teach me something about myself, about the world around me, about the people I meet, and so it's all been a blessing in one form or another. And I'm grateful for both the ups and the downs.
I just wonder though sometimes, Sean, do we sometimes hear the message? Do we really hear the message when it's telling us that we're done, that it's time to stop, that it's time to move on to something else, right? That it's time to take that energy and take that burn and put it to help grow the sport. You can do so many other things other than getting punched in the head, right? Or getting beat up right out there, So I'm saying though, do we really listen? Because this is what I do, Sean. I listen. Believe it or not, as much as I talk, I do listen. But you said earlier in the interview, I'm not saying that was my last fight. I might fight again. There's some contemplation going on about fighting again, right? And so I wonder, do we know when to say when? How
Well,
is that to
with
know
this,
when to say when?
with this specifically, like I'm retired from trying to become a world champion. I'll say it that way. Am I retired from fighting completely? Like I said, maybe I'll want to do that. Maybe I'll just want to have fun and fight in Thailand. Because now that we're living in the States, maybe make a 3-month trip to Thailand and train for a fight. That sounds like a fun thing to do.
Mhm.
But having it completely immersed in your life where that's all you're doing is trying to become a world champion, I'm retired from that. I'm retired from trying to be the best fighter in the world. Am I
Okay.
retired from competing? Like I'll always be competing in one sense or another, whether it's inside the ring or in the gym or in business. I'm always competing in that sense. But yeah, that's a good question though. I respect it.
Well, hey, that's who I am. Before I move on to some other parts of the interview, this guy. He keeps popping up in different places. I don't know why. I don't know who he is. I don't know anything about this guy. He just keeps popping up. But I just happened to see this picture that just popped up somewhere, and both of you guys got black eyes. First of all,
Yeah.
who is this man? Right? How do you know him? What's up with him?
So I'll be teaching a seminar at Maryville Muay Thai where Chad is the owner there. He's a friend of mine. We really had a fun time in Thailand. He came to one of our training camps, and we both ended up fighting on the same card, and it was an epic fight night. And he ended up doing really well against a skilled opponent. He brought it to him, and again the W. I think I ended up losing that night. I'm not sure. I think I ended up losing that night, but it was a hard fight, and it was a really just good experience to be able to share that with him through training camp, through the life in Thailand, through the fight, through the win and the loss. And he's been doing such a great job coming back from the U.S. with a real purpose and drive to help grow Muay Thai, especially in the area of like St. Louis and down south and southeast. So he's been doing a wonderful job, and I'm happy to be a part of everything he's doing. I'm really excited to see his gym firsthand because I've only seen it on social media so far.
Yeah. No, I'm messing. Chad is a great guy. He's one of my partners over there. He's doing a great job. We have some big stuff coming up, guys. We're going to make some announcements here real soon and everything. And he's just a great guy. I might have been knowing him for a few years now, and we've worked and built some things up pretty good. And I'll tell you, the best is yet to come, though. We're going to do some great things. I just want to give a shout out to Chad there. He's such a cool guy.
Love you, Chad.
As I move forward, I'm going to transition here a little bit. About the champ life. One of the things I noticed that you said that you want to try to be a champion, not only in the ring, but you don't have to be a world champion to be a champion in the ring, by the way. right?
Mhm.
I was fortunate. I had some opportunities to win a couple world championships. That's fine. But it's not about that. It is about the person. It's about who you are and what you represent. So I want to go through this quick little thing here. I know we're winding down here and dig into the brain of the Muay Thai guy about who he is and what he thinks about a couple of things. Is that okay with you?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we'll talk about core values, and I want to figure out how you define some of these things. Let's take the first one, which is a big one for me, loyalty.
Loyalty.
Define loyalty for me.
Define loyalty is it's a reciprocity thing in regards to
Mm,
showing your love and caringness for someone who's shown their love and caringness for you. And it's just a matter of, yeah, loyalty isn't something I've thought about too deeply, to be honest. Usually when I'm thinking of values and everything, integrity comes to mind, freedom comes to mind, family comes to mind. Loyalty, though, I have a kind of hard time defining that, I guess you could say. I've never thought too deeply on it.
I want to go there. Didn't I tell you, Sean? This is
I'm
not
ready.
I told you this is not a normal interview, man. I don't do those. But listen, I want to go a little bit deeper. I want you to think about a situation. Think about a person in your life, right? And then now, like your wife, and then let's go at it again. Tell me what you think about loyalty.
Loyalty is just love and respect for another person, or another entity, I guess you could say. Because like gym hopping is like kind
Okay.
of polarizing idea in that sense. Like you shouldn't train at other gyms, or you should. And there's a lot of this or that in that whole conversation. But I think as long as you're doing it genuinely, as long as you're being open with your communication and showing love and respect, I think that's what loyalty is all about. Is just showing respect to people by not like treading on them in a bad way.
Right. Okay. Well, you mentioned the word. You already said it. Respect. I want you to define respect and what that means to you.
Respect is like an intangible thing, right? It's just like this aura of energy that you have for someone else in regards to respecting whether or not they're a good person or a good fighter. And respect kind of deviates depending on what you're looking for the respect in. Is it a respect as a human or a teacher or a student? But more often than not, that kind of is revolved around love as well. I have a tattoo on my arm that in Chinese means love conquers all. And I just
Wow.
believe like love is the name of the game. That's like the core value of respect. That's also the core value of loyalty. And so I think as long as you like really show some type of form of love towards someone, that is also a form of respect.
I think that's very good. By the way, I think this is something. Matter of fact, let me mention about TK King. TK
Yeah,
King
let's
is
do it.
up there. By the way, you're not going to meet a better person. I mean, there's so many. I have so many great people that I work with. Chad is one. TK is one. And stuff like that. These are just awesome people. So you're going to enjoy them. Just straightforward, honest, love the sport and all of that. But she's saying, she's just reminding everybody that you'll be doing a seminar on this Saturday, December 11th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's in Durham, North Carolina at United Thai Boxing. Mr. Sean Fagen is going to be there, the Muay Thai guy in person. You definitely want to check that out. And they have a really nice gym over there, too. I think you're probably going to have a pretty good turnout there. Walk On Always Believe is all back on again. And I think they're out there like in London or England or somewhere like that, by the way. So we got some people on there. Certainly, I always appreciate that. Moving right along, though, I want to ask you about something I know you know well. And I want you to talk to me as though you were talking to some new young fighter in the game and explain the importance of being disciplined.
Discipline is everything. I mean, that's kind of what Jocko Willink says, is discipline equals freedom. And if you're able to be disciplined enough in your habits and your mindset and your belief in yourself, then you really are capable of anything. And it kind of is also the idea of like the compound effect. And if you're disciplined with your morning routine, with your nutrition, with your workouts, and you do that over time, that eventually the scale of that just kind of compounds over time and multiplies. And then before you know it, you're doing things you didn't even think you were capable of. But that's
Very
all
good.
through discipline. And so as long as you're just sticking to it, discipline, consistency, they go hand in hand. Because you can be disciplined for a day, but if you're not disciplined consistently over a long period of time, then it's really not going to do as much good.
Very good, very good. I noticed one of the things you put on your site was that you got knocked out in a fight, right? Which I have been to, right? Let's be clear, right? It happens. You stay out there long enough, you're gonna get knocked out, and you'll certainly get to get it handed to you. But the way you handled that, right, I thought was impressive. Now you put it up there, you explained it, you talked about it and everything. You're probably trying to figure out how did I learn so much about you in only about 2 days, because I study. But I want to ask you about something, and maybe that was it, that you had in your life that was very tough for you. Wasn't really sure how you were going to get through it, but you found a way. Tell me something that you failed at, but then it taught you a valuable lesson, and then you ultimately achieved.
Well, I failed numerous times, both in the ring and in business, and each time the failure seemed almost like final. That seemed like
Yes,
I'm not doing this anymore. Like fuck fighting, fuck business. Like this is
sure.
just not the route I want to go on.
Right.
Whether it was due to an injury, whether it was due to a loss, whether it's due to being broke and not having enough money to pay the bills, so you have to rely on your girlfriend to pay the bills. There was a lot of lows and a lot of failures, but ultimately those were all really insightful experiences because it made me take a step back, look at myself, look at my priorities, look at my values, and figure out whether or not this was worth pursuing. And every time I did that, I was able to redefine what my vision was for my future and for my life. And as
Mhm.
long as I stayed clear in my future and my vision, then I was always able to pick myself back up and go to it. But if you don't have a vision of where you want to be going or why you're doing what you're doing, then it's really easy to get knocked down and stay down. But if you have a
Right.
clear vision for why you want to get back up, then you'll get back up each and every time.
I look back just for a moment because I have these books all around me, and this book reminded me of John Maxwell's book, who's a great author, and you should want to read his books. I mean, he has a ton of books, but
Mhm.
Failing Forward is one of his books. So you reminded me basically of that book by saying how much you learned from failing, from falling short sometimes, and you learned from that, and it made you a better person. Do I connect with that correctly?
Yeah, and failure is a subjective term, right? Because like
Yes,
failure to me is when you just kind of like you decide you give up on something that you want to be
exactly.
pursuing.
You don't
But
fail
if
until you
you
quit. Right.
Yeah, you don't fail until you quit. Like sometimes quitting is the right decision though. That's not necessarily a failure, but it takes a
Bingo.
aware person to know that. And so
Very good.
if there was one thing I would say in regard to like uh I guess my success in the ring and outside the ring is like the failures and being mindful enough and being able to take a step back and do some self-reflection has been really key to me being able to make better decisions uh for my future and for the people around me. So if you're like lacking clarity, definitely taking some time to meditate or to journal on a routine basis has been a really pinnacle part of my career in more ways than one. And like you were saying before about being a champion inside and outside the ring, if I want to be a champion husband, a champion son, a champion businessman, I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself and organizing my thoughts. And if I'm not doing that on a day to day basis and staying connected with my vision, it's really easy to lose your feet and not feel grounded or aligned at all.
And you talked about, something that's really, really important there about taking care of yourself. And if you don't, how can you take care of others? That brings me to companionship. Your wife. I look on your Facebook page. You guys are like two peas in a pot, right? Seem like she's in the Muay Thai. She trains. Now she's having your child. How important is she to you?
She's the Adrian to my Rocky, man. She's been the one in my corner like the entire time. And it's been she's the like honestly, here's a story, right? This was like an Adrian moment. I lost my first pro fight and I lost in the first round. So it was like devastating because like I'm the Muay Thai guy, I'm on the pro card, I'm the
Sure,
main event. And
sure.
I lost in the first round by getting knocked down 3 times. It was like embarrassing, right? And so it took me a long time to kind of come back from that. And there was an
Right,
opportunity to fight on short notice. And it was on Facebook. I was like, oh, there's an opportunity to fight online fight. Like
right.
that'd be cool, but I'm not really in the mood. And she like she was on the across the room. She dropped all of her things, looked over at me, and she goes, Sean, what the fuck did you just say? You scared? You scared? You and she started calling me out. Like I've never heard you be scared of an opportunity like this before this loss. You were always taking risk and pushing yourself forward and challenging yourself. So why not do it now? So I took that fight. She inspired me to take that fight. Now, here's another part of the story is I ended up losing that fight, but it was a much harder fight where I gave him all 5 rounds, and it was
Right.
progress. I still ended up not feeling like happy about the outcome,
Right.
obviously, because a loss is a loss. But just getting back in the ring and having her be my rock and make sure that I'm always pushing forward. She knows who I am. She knows my values. She's supported all my decisions revolving around moving to Thailand, fighting professionally, doing everything I do. And it takes a very unique person, not only be the spouse of a husband or spouse of a fighter, but also the spouse of an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of risk and reward in the games that I play. And she's been along the ride the entire time and hasn't faded in her belief in what we're doing at all.
Do you feel like you owe her?
Oh, absolutely. We owe each other. You know, it's a team effort. We're always helping each other in one form or another. We're always working on our communication. We're always challenging ourselves to grow. We don't like staying complacent. We don't like running in place. And so we call each other out when we feel like we're out of bounds or we're not living up to our potential in one form or another. And so I owe her a lot to my
Right.
ability to continue on. She, like I said, she was paying the bills early on when I was trying to
Sure.
figure this stuff out.
Sure.
And now I'm able to repay the favor and just make sure that we're living comfortably. So without her, I'm not sure how far I would have made it in my career, but I'm thankful to God that she's been a part of it.
That interesting that you talk about Adrian because I'm actually planning a tribute to Rocky. Really soon on my show. Might be tomorrow, but that's another story. I bring that up. But I just got a quick question for you too. And as we wind down, both of you guys are in Muay Thai. When you fuss, do you kick each other in the legs, or do you need?
We're always shadow boxing and like play fighting with each other. Sometimes people look at us weird because we're doing it like in the supermarket and stuff, but that's
Right.
just who we are.
I bet you got a lifetime play partner, their sparring partner, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
Tell people about your upcoming seminars this weekend.
Yeah, so I got a seminar coming up this Saturday at United Thai Boxing. Really excited to see TK. I remember meeting her back in Thailand at Diamond Muay Thai, and it's just so cool for them to reach out and want me to be a part of their team and teach some of the tricks I've been learning while in Thailand. And so that's on Saturday, and then on Sunday I'll be at Maryville Muay Thai with Chad Mueller and his whole crew. And really looking forward to just share my knowledge, share my experiences, and just hopefully give some people some inspiration to continue on whatever journey that they're on.
Right, right. What if someone wanted to contact you? To have a lot of gyms that watch the show? Maybe let them know. Give them your contact information of how they might can reach out to you,
Sure.
and go from there.
All right. So you can email me at Sean@knockmoynation.com. That's probably the best way to get to it. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram. You could just Google Muay Thai guy or Sean Fagen, and you'll find all my social media profiles and everything. But my social media, I've been trying to be a little bit more disciplined with it. Talk about discipline, right? I've been trying to be disciplined with my social media, and I haven't been on it as much because I've been trying to spend time with my family and friends. And so I don't check my messages as often as I used to. And so email is usually the best way to contact me.
Awesome, awesome. You know what, Sean? I'm not going to hold you a lot. We could talk about a lot of things.
I'm sure we could.
And now you've said some things that's cued me in, right? And remember, I was a fighter, so I understand a lot about this game. You'll be very, very surprised. But maybe we'll have that conversation another time because I try to keep my shows kind of, at some kind of time frame there. So I don't get too long. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this up for you, and I'm going to send you a copy of it, and you'll be able to put it wherever you want to put it. But any final thoughts?
No, just appreciate what you're doing to help grow the sport and everything as well. It really is a grassroots movement, right? It's a smaller sub niche of MMA, and so people are still getting used to what Muay Thai is. They're still saying it correctly and everything. And just being able to grant people the opportunity to explore combat sports, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, or Muay Thai or MMA. There's such great tools for growth. And so the fact that you're allowing people to be exposed to this type of world where you're able to really learn about yourself through combat sports, that is, that's really doing a beneficial thing to society. So thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for all the great questions. This was a really fun interview and definitely unique. So I appreciate that as well.
All right. Sean Fagen, the Muay Thai guy. Thanks so much, sir, for being on today. Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right there from yourself. The Muay Thai guy, Mr. Sean Fagen there. He's on a mission. I think he's going to do some great things, continue to do great things in the sport. I know Sean, Chad, and he and Chad are good friends. Perhaps he will work with us somewhere down the road. I'm certainly open to that. He seems like a really, really a nice guy with some great plans and a great resume. I like him. I think it's going to be great. You guys check him out this weekend in Durham, North Carolina, as well as Missouri, for a seminar, a Muay Thai seminar. Guys, I tell you, you go watch his stuff on Facebook. It's nothing like being in person. The guy has some good skills. He has some great philosophy. He's very technical. And I think that you can only win by checking out his seminar, any one of those events, either one of those events this weekend. Mr. Sean Fagen, thanks so much again for being on Johnny Davis Live. Now, let me cover a little bit more business here on, some other things that I want to talk about, obviously, and then I'm going to close out the show because I have a busy schedule as well. Guys, you've heard me talk about it many times, but I want to keep bringing it up because I want people to get registered for this event. It is the IKF Georgia Classic. It is coming up again, January 15th in Columbus, Georgia. Please become a part of this event. Sign up or register. Let me say something. I want to slow this down for a minute because I do want to say this, that when you are in a position like I am, you have people who are envious, they're jealous, and they try to cut my legs off. Georgia has some elements there that there are people there who don't like the fact that I'm coming there with an event. This is the second annual one. Fine. It is what it is. I don't care. I'm doing it for the sport. I'm doing it to grow the sport. I'm doing it for the sport of Muay Thai and kickboxing, right? And so you need to know Georgians and Floridians and North Carolinians and South Carolinians and Alabamians. Everybody needs to know we are coming to Georgia on January 15th. I don't care that somebody else decided, hey, we're going to put this on that date and that on that date in another state, another city. It doesn't matter. I made a comment the other day about competition. I want to explain something to you. I'm a two-time world champion fighter. I'm a fighter, not just in the ring, but outside of the ring. I fight for our sport. So if you want to challenge me, you want to compete with me, then you better be ready, because be careful of what you try to do. Because the very tactics that you use, especially when you are against a real fighter, you might end up punching yourself in the face. Okay? So I'm just saying I'm going to focus on the event. I'm going to focus on a great event on January 15th in Columbus, Georgia at the Columbus Convention Center. PKB semi-contact in the morning, rolling into a nighttime show. Listen, let me be clear. The Georgia Classic will not be the East Coast Classic. East Coast Classic, we had 110 to 115 fights in that weekend. This is a one-day event. We got weigh-ins on the 14th. We have fights on all day on Saturday. We might have 25, 30 fights, 40 fights maybe. And it's okay. It is what it is. We're going to do it, but we're coming. All right? So those of you, gyms, who want to support us, who will support us, who believes in Muay Thai, who believes in kickboxing, who want our sport to move forward, not just MMA. MMA is what it is. Let it be what it is, right? But if they're not passionate about it, then they're not going to give it everything that we're giving it. This is what I'm talking about right now. This is the frustration in it sometimes when I see people who claim to be in Muay Thai and kickboxing, but then you have MMA promotions coming up wanting to prostitute our fighters and use them for their shows, and now knowing they don't give a damn about Muay Thai and kickboxing, right? And now I am a Muay Thai boxing guy. That's what I do. We're asking for your support. Talk to your people. Talk to your students. Again, we already have like 20, 25 fights, right? And we're going to have more. We got over a month or so. But what bothers me is those people who profess to be loyal to the game and want to build it and take it to the next. As soon as they get another offer, they jump. That is not loyalty. And I have a great memory. I just want to say that, guys. But anyway, Georgia Classic, January 15th. Come out, check it out. It's going to be a great event at the Georgia Convention Center. All right, guys, listen, I could go on and on. We have a lot of stuff going on. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, guys. We're trying to grow that YouTube channel. Nothing like Sean Fagen's YouTube channel. This guy has like 500,000 followers, right? So we're nothing like that now. But my kind of my stuff kind of spread out all over the place. So I'm known, but not like in a specific area, right? Because I've been around for 100 years, right? So, but we would love for you to come on, like our Facebook pages, or like our AK Promotions page and all of that. You know, we do appreciate it. You know, we are trying to grow. We have our streaming company now that we're doing some great things with. We're really excited about our streaming and what we are offering to some of the events that are going to be coming up. You know, guys, I'm telling you right now, 2022, what? You better be ready. You better get ready because I'm not playing. Don't try to get in my way. If you want to get in my way, not a good idea. Step aside. I'm only working with people passionate like I am, people who want the best for this sport, right? That's it. If I find that that is not you, move on. You're out. You're gone. You're out of my life. Okay, right? So we're about serious people, right? And so if you're one of those people and you think that you want to grow and be a part of what we're doing, right? We're asking you to please join us, be a part of what we do, because I'm telling you right now, 2022 is going to be a really, really, really exciting year. And I just want you guys just to come and support us, be a part of that, and I guarantee you, you will not regret. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Listen, thanks again for watching yet another edition of Johnny Davis Live. I want you to always respect each other. Forward march. This is Johnny Davis Live, and I'm checking out. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.